In ancient Rome, guilt did not end with the body. It moved outward, into households, into names, into futures that had not yet happened. The law did not search for closure, it searched for continuity. Stone holds the shape of power, not in words, in weight. Rome rises from river and dust. Bridges cross moving water. Roads cut through hills. Walls decide who belongs. This is not only a city, it is a system. Order moves through it like circulation. Markets open at first light. Metal strikes stone. Voices fill narrow streets. Footsteps echo beneath arches. Above all of it, law remains unseen. In Rome, law is not only written, it is performed. Every sentence is a signal, not only to the accused, but to everyone who watches. The state does not punish, it instructs. A man stands before authority. His crime is read aloud. The record is made. The outcome is fixed. But the system does not stop at him. In Roman thought, a household is not a collection. It is a unit, one body, one responsibility. The father is the legal center. Everything else moves around him. When that center is removed, the structure changes. The law understands this. It uses it. A conviction creates movement. Property is marked. Names are noted. Doors that once opened begin to close. Not by force, by pattern. A woman walks through a market where she once belonged. Hands pause. Eyes turn away. Space forms. No one speaks. The law has already spoken for them. Children follow behind her. Their names sound the same, but they carry different meaning. In Rome, reputation is currency. When it is taken, nothing replaces it. Homes become quieter. Shutters close earlier. Fires burn lower. The street does not change. The position inside it does. Property is not only land, it is memory. When land is taken, history loses its anchor. A family's past becomes unstable, easy to move, easy to forget. Some households receive notice, not a command, a record, a reassignment. They leave central districts, they move to edges, from familiar homes to rented rooms, from familiar faces to anonymous streets. The law does not call this punishment, it calls it order. In court records, certain sentences carry weight beyond the body. Exile, degradation, display. These extend into lineage. A wife is no longer connected to a citizen. She becomes connected to a charge. Children no longer inherit position. They inherit distance. In documents, this is efficient. In daily life, it is permanent. A boy learns which doors not to knock on. A girl learns which streets not to walk alone. The city teaches without speaking. Some families disappear from public life, not because they leave, but because they are no longer seen. Their work becomes background. Their presence becomes temporary. Their future becomes conditional. Rome does not need walls for them. It builds something quieter, social boundaries. These do not rise from stone, they rise from agreement. The baker does not refuse bread, he delays. The landlord does not deny housing, he increases the price. The teacher does not reject a student, he forgets their name. No command is given, no order is written. The system functions because everyone understands it. Some families are assigned labor, not as property, as dependents. They work land they no longer own. They maintain buildings they no longer enter freely. They carry water through districts that no longer recognize them. Their position is never announced. It is simply known. Outside the city, the pattern continues. A name travels ahead of a person. By the time they arrive, decisions are already made. Rome does not end at its walls. It moves through roads, through records, through memory. Time does not erase the mark. It softens the sound of it. Generations grow inside the shadow of a sentence they never heard. They do not know the trial. They do not know the charge. They only know the result. Some attempt to leave. They move toward distant cities, toward provinces, toward borders where their names carry less weight. But Rome is not only a place, it is a standard. Status follows behavior. They learn to speak less, to ask less, to expect less. The system no longer needs to observe them. They observe themselves. This is its most efficient form. Public punishment is remembered for spectacle, exile, degradation, display. But the quieter consequences last longer. A death ends, a structure continues. In Roman law, citizenship is protection. Without it, everything is exposed. Families connected to condemned men often lose this shield, not always by decree, but by access. Their voices are no longer heard in the same rooms. Their petitions move slower. Their presence becomes tolerated. History does not record these moments. It records outcomes. A name removed from a list, a property transferred, a household missing from tax rolls. Between those lines exists everything else. Rome continues to expand. Temples rise, roads extend, statues appear in open squares. The city presents stability. Behind it operates a pattern. Control is strongest when it is inherited. A man can resist a sentence. A family must live inside it. This is why the system reaches outward, not to increase punishment, but to prevent return. A disgraced household rarely restores its position, even when charges fade, even when leadership changes. Memory moves slower than law. Some adapt. They take new trades, new districts, new identities. But adaptation is not recovery. It is survival. Old names are no longer spoken. Old stories are no longer told. Inside the household, language changes. Children learn which questions not to ask. Parents learn which pasts not to mention. The home becomes a place of editing, not expression. This is how the system continues without force, by turning families into filters, by making silence a skill that is passed down. Over time, the pattern repeats. Different crimes, different rulers,
same structure. Rome eventually breaks. Its walls fall. Its roads erode. Its records scatter. But the design does not disappear. Later systems adopt the same shape: punishment that travels, guilt that spreads, consequences that outlive the event. Stone collapses, patterns remain. History remembers trials, names, dates. It rarely remembers what followed. The households that became smaller without being destroyed, the children who grew without inheritance, the wives who learned how to move unseen. Rome did not erase them, it repositioned them.
The sentence did not remain in the court. It entered the street, not as a sound, as a condition. The city adjusted without being told. In Rome, public space reflects private judgment. Markets do not close. Roads do not change direction, but movement inside them shifts. A household marked by conviction becomes a reference point, not spoken, recognized. Neighbors learn the distance to keep, not measured in steps, measured in attention. A woman carrying water from a public fountain feels the difference first. Hands that once helped now hesitate. Voices that once greeted now pause. The space around her becomes wider. Children walking beside her learn the pattern. They do not ask why. They watch. In Rome, watching is a form of education. Public buildings remain open to all citizens, but access is more than entry. It is invitation. A family connected to a charge enters the same spaces, but they do not occupy them the same way. A bench in a forum is empty. There is room, but no one sits beside them. The law does not enforce this. The city does. Work changes next. Trades depend on trust. Trust depends on standing. Standing depends on memory. A craftsman once known by skill becomes known by association. His work remains the same. Its value does not. Payments arrive slower. Requests become fewer. His tools do not move as often. This is not recorded in any ledger, but it is counted. Households begin to adjust their routines. They leave earlier. They return later. They move through streets that draw less attention. They learn the geography of avoidance. Some districts feel lighter. Some feel heavier. Rome is mapped by reputation as much as by stone. Public ceremonies continue. Festivals mark seasons. Crowds gather. But inclusion is selective. A family marked by a conviction is present, but not visible. They stand at the edge of gatherings, not pushed, not welcomed. Children notice which games they are not invited to join. They notice which names are not called. The lesson is not spoken. It is repeated. In schools, records still exist. Names are still written, but opportunity is layered. Some students are guided. Some are observed. Some are left to move on their own. The difference is not explained. It is consistent. In legal matters, small disputes become complicated.
a boundary line between properties, a missing payment, a disagreement over goods. For most households, these are settled quickly. For a marked family, the process extends. Documents move slower. Appointments are delayed. The room becomes quieter when they enter. The law is still present, but its attention is divided. Outside the city, the pattern spreads differently. Villages receive news through travelers, through records, through rumor. A name arrives before a person does. When a family seeks a new beginning, the ground is already shaped. Work is offered, but not stability. Shelter is provided, but not permanence. They become temporary residents in permanent places. In Rome, lineage defines expectation. A family connected to disgrace loses its direction. Children are no longer asked what they will become. They are asked where they will go. Ambition becomes something to manage, not something to express. Inside the home, conversation changes. Stories about the past are shortened. Details are removed. Names are not repeated. Memory is edited for safety. Walls that once held family history now hold silence. Meals are quieter. Plans are simpler. The future becomes smaller. This is not imposed by law. It is shaped by consequence. Some families attempt to restore their position. They seek patrons. They offer service. They attach themselves to stronger households. Protection is traded for loyalty. This system is not written, but it is understood. A powerful name can soften a weak one. A public association can redirect attention. But this path requires visibility. Not every family chooses it. Some choose disappearance instead. They move beyond familiar networks. They leave trade routes. They settle near borders, in places where Rome's record is thin. But even there, standards remain. Roman identity follows behavior, speech, dress, expectation. A family that does not match the pattern is noticed, not as a threat, as a difference. Over time, the original charge becomes less important. The outcome remains. Children grow into roles shaped by earlier decisions, not their own. They inherit position without inheriting context. Their lives are formed by a sentence they never heard. This is the long structure of punishment. It does not need repetition. It sustains itself. Public memory fades. Private memory remains. A household remembers why certain doors never opened, why certain paths were never taken, why certain names were never used. Rome continues its daily motion. Ships arrive. Goods are unloaded. Contracts are written. The system moves forward, and within it, marked families move differently. Not in chains, in patterns. Their presence is not forbidden. It is limited. Their future is not denied. It is shaped. This is how the city maintains order without constant force. By turning consequence into environment, by making outcome a condition of space. The sentence is no longer a moment. It becomes a setting, a background, a structure that does not need to be explained, only lived.
It settles. Time moves through the city. Stone weathers. Records fade. Names lose sharpness. But structure remains. A sentence spoken once becomes a reference used many times. Not in law, in behavior. Children grow into roles shaped by earlier absence, not knowing what was taken, only knowing what is missing. In some households, the past becomes a closed room. No one enters it, no one names it. Silence is preserved like a rule. In others, fragments remain, a story without detail, a warning without explanation, a lesson without origin. This is how memory survives inside restriction, not as history, as caution. Rome continues to govern. Officials change. Policies shift. But the pattern of consequence holds. Public space still sorts people without instruction. Opportunity still follows reputation. Reputation still follows association. A family once marked is rarely fully unmarked, even when records disappear, even when witnesses are gone. The city remembers through habit. In distant provinces, the same design appears. Different buildings, different languages, same structure. Authority at the center, households at the edge. A charge becomes more than an event. It becomes a category. Some families attempt to reverse it. They accumulate property. They seek alliances. They adopt new names. They move into new districts. Progress appears, but the past does not dissolve. It becomes something not discussed, a detail not included, a gap in a story. This absence shapes behavior as much as any written rule. The next generation learns where their history begins and where it does not. In public life, Rome presents continuity. Ceremonies repeat. Symbols remain. Law maintains its form. But beneath this surface, private lives carry older structures. Punishment that no longer looks like punishment. Control that no longer needs command. This is the refined state of the system, when consequence becomes environment, when authority becomes habit, when silence becomes inheritance. Over centuries, the empire changes shape. Borders move, cities fall, new powers rise, but the design travels forward, in different societies, in different forms. The idea that one action can define many lives, that one charge can shape a lineage, that consequence can outlast the moment that created it. History often records the center, the rulers, the trials, the public decisions. It rarely records the periphery, the households that adjusted quietly, the children who learned limitation before ambition, the families who carried outcomes without ever standing in court. Rome is remembered for its law, its roads, its monuments, less for its design of consequence, a system that did not rely on constant force, only on continuity, on memory, on behavior. This is how it sustained itself, by making punishment mobile, by making guilt transferable, by turning the household into a point of control. The city does not need to speak its rules. They are visible in movement, in access, in distance, in the shape of daily life. Stone remains where it was placed. Patterns remain where they were taught.
and long after the sentence is forgotten, the structure it created continues to stand.
Time does not announce when it changes things. It works quietly. The city continues to move. Stones are replaced. Records are rewritten. Names are spoken by fewer people. But behavior remains. A family walks through a street built by another generation. They follow paths shaped by decisions they never witnessed. This is how the past stays present, not in memory, in structure, in every place where access is given, in every place where it is not. Rome no longer stands as it once did. Its walls exist in fragments. Its roads lead into other worlds. But its design it refined does not belong to one empire. It belongs to systems, where law reaches beyond the individual, where consequence extends into the household, where silence becomes a form of order. History often asks who ruled, who commanded, who was judged. It rarely asks who adjusted, who learned restraint instead of ambition, who carried outcomes without ever being named. These lives do not leave monuments. They leave patterns in how people move through power, how they approach authority, how they measure distance. This is the quiet legacy of control, not written in law, written in behavior. The city fades,